All right, today we're diving into a condition that sends out these critical but hidden warnings from deep inside your body. And trust me, you don't want to miss these signals because the consequences, well, they can be absolutely devastating.
I know, it sounds like some kind of weird riddle, right? But the answer connects all three of these things that seem totally unrelated. And it all comes back to one single problem. A problem that's been quietly building up in one of the most important pathways in your entire body. And look, this is not some rare, obscure thing we're talking about. This one condition, it's responsible for about 10% of all strokes. Just think about that for a second. That is a huge number, and it's exactly why we need to understand what these warning signs are. Okay, so to really get what's going on, we've got to start with the system itself. Let's talk about what I like to call the brain's vital highway. So you've got these two major arteries, one on each side of your neck, called the carotid arteries. I want you to picture them like non-stop superhighways. Their one and only job is to shoot a constant supply of oxygen-rich blood straight to your brain, making sure it has everything it needs to run the show, every single second. But what happens when that superhighway starts having problems? I'm talking about a traffic jam that builds up silently, right inside the walls of the road itself. Well, that problem has a name, atherosclerosis. It's basically this slow-motion disease where gunk, like fatty deposits and cholesterol, builds up and creates this stuff called plaque. And over time, this plaque gets harder and makes the arteries narrower and narrower. So how does this whole mess get started? Well, first, something damages the smooth inside wall of the artery. Think high blood pressure or smoking. Then, the bad cholesterol, LDL, kind of sneaks into that damaged spot. Your body's immune system rushes in to fix it, but the cleanup process actually ends up creating this nasty plaque. And as that plaque grows, it's literally like a permanent lane closure on that highway to your brain. Okay, so as this internal traffic jam gets worse and worse, your body starts sending out alarms. It's trying to warn you. Let's break down the three big ones. Now, the first clue is pretty wild. It's not something you'd feel at all. It's something a doctor can actually hear. Yeah, a literal sound, an alarm bell telling you the blood flow is in big trouble. This sound has a specific name, a carotid bruit. So picture this, a doctor puts a stethoscope on your neck, and instead of hearing, nothing, they hear this whooshing sound. That whoosh is the sound of your blood struggling to squeeze through a really, really narrow opening. And that highway metaphor is just perfect here. That whooshing sound, the bruit, is basically the noise of a massive traffic jam happening inside that artery. And it makes sense, right? The louder and rougher that sound gets, the worse the traffic jam, the stenosis, has become.
And just hearing that sound, wow, it's not a small thing. Just having a carotid bruit means you have a 2.6 times higher risk of having a stroke than someone who doesn't. That is a massive clue for doctors.
Okay, the second alarm is a visual one. And honestly, it sounds terrifying. It's called Amaurosis Fugax. That literally means fleeting darkness. People who experience it often say it's like a black curtain just falls down over the vision in one of their eyes. And then it's gone. And let me be crystal clear, this is not a minor thing. After you have one of these episodes, your risk of a full-blown stroke shoots up. It can be anywhere from just under 2% all the way up to over 24%. Now, that's a big range, I know, but it all depends on your other risk factors. The point is, the danger is very, very real. So what's actually going on with that curtain falls? Well, a tiny piece of that plaque we talked about breaks off from the wall of the carotid artery. It travels up through the bloodstream, and for a moment, it gets stuck and blocks the little artery that supplies blood to your eye. When it moves along, vision comes back. But man, what a warning sign. It tells you that plaque is unstable and starting to fall apart. And all of this leads us to the third and most devastating alarm. A cerebral infarction. We just call it a stroke. This is the absolute worst case scenario. The highway to the brain isn't just narrowed anymore, it's completely blocked. And when that happens, brain cells are cut off from their oxygen supply and they literally start to die.
So, how does this disaster happen? Well, there are basically three main paths. The most common is when a piece of plaque breaks loose and shoots up into the brain like a tiny missile. That's an embolism. Or a blood clot can form right on top of the plaque, just sealing the artery shut right there. That's a thrombosis. And finally, the artery can just get so clogged and narrow that not enough blood can physically get through, starving the brain.
Okay, these alarms are no joke. So let's pull this all together and really look at the risk we're talking about here. Yeah, this really lays it all out. You've got the sound, the carotid bruit, which jacks up your stroke risk. You've got the scary visual warning, the Amaurosis Fugax, which is basically a preview of a possible stroke. And then you've got the final event, the stroke itself, the cerebral infarction.
And check this out. For people with the most severe cases, we're talking over 75% blockage, the numbers are just grim. They face a 3.3% chance of having a stroke every single year. That's like playing Russian roulette with your brain year after year.
Look, I know this all sounds really scary, but here's the good news. There is hope. The whole point of these alarms is that they are early warnings. They're a chance to do something about it before it's too late. And we have some amazing tools to actually see what's going on in there. Simple things like an ultrasound can show the plaque and how the blood is flowing. And then you've got more advanced scans, like an MRI, which gives this incredible 3D picture of the blockage. Suddenly, this hidden danger isn't so hidden anymore. So, what's the bottom line here? It's this. That weird whooshing sound in the neck, that temporary blindness, they are not just weird little glitches. They are urgent messages from your body. Paying attention to them is absolutely the key to preventing that final, catastrophic traffic jam in your brain.
So I want to leave you with this. Your body is always talking to you. It speaks in the language of symptoms. The only question is, are you listening?